Welcome to our session, Run Easier, How to Turn Your Clients into Promoters and Referrals. I am Dawn Berry with Provident Insurance Agency, and I'd like to take a moment to introduce all of our panel experts. We've got Adam Kreitman with Words That Click. We have Alan Minster with More Prospects, and Tom Bruidge, Market Colt, and Dale Langler with Langler and Associates.
I just like making life difficult for people.
So we're going to get started with Adam.
So when Dale and Dawn asked me to be a part of this panel and share the things I do to create wow experiences and generate referrals, I was a bit reluctant. And what I told them was, I appreciate you asking, but I don't really have any systems in my business that do those things. What I said is, I just kind of keep my head down and try and do good work, and the referrals seem to come. To which Dale replied in his usual brilliant way, Adam, that's exactly the message a lot of business owners need to hear. The fact is, the bar is set pretty low. If you can do the basic things, most of your competitors don't follow up on phone calls or emails well. They don't consistently and clearly communicate with their clients. They don't follow through on the promises that they make people. If you do those things and you do good work on top of that, the referrals are just naturally going to flow your way. The other thing I want to share is a way to get referrals from prospects who end up not doing business with you. And the way that you can do that is by saying no. There are prospects who come to you who are not a good fit. In my case, there may be somebody that comes to me and wants to do a pay-per-click campaign, and after talking with them, I realize that that's really not in their best interest. And when I realize that, I tell them. If you want to create a wow experience, you tell somebody who has pretty much their checkbook out ready to do business with you that it's not in their best interest to go forward, and that you're not going to work with them. So I don't know if that's a system, but it's definitely a way that works to generate referrals.
I have found that in working with companies both large and small, that most companies have processes in place for every aspect of their business day, except when it comes to asking for referrals. Then everything is random. We believe, and we have demonstrated with our clients, that the most effective way to get referrals is to ask for them. However, most of the ways that people ask for referrals are two things. They're sporadic and they're unprofessional. We call up a prospect or a client, and we say, give me a list of all the people who you think I ought to be talking to, usually with disappointing results. What we have found to be the most effective way of securing referrals is 1, passive. Twice a year, send a letter out to your existing customer base. Describe who it is, your ideal customer, and have a letter that's worded something like this. We really appreciate you having you as a customer. And most of our business comes from existing customers that are very happy with what we do. Please find and close 5 of my business cards, put them in your top desk drawer. If you think of anybody that might benefit from what we do, feel free to give them my card and know that we will take good care of them. Passive. Active. Once a year, send out a letter to your existing customer base, what we call a quality control letter. When we say a quality control letter, however, we don't mean this 47-page form that you get after your car serviced. What I'm talking about is 4 or 5 questions that says, how do we do about this? How do we provide service for you? 3 or 4 questions, and the final one is, would you refer us to friends, business associates, and clients? When you get those responses back, whether the feedback is good or bad, call them. If they say no, find out why. I don't know about you, but if I'm going to find out about bad news someday, I want to find out about it today so I can fix it. If they say yes, we would refer, then the next question is, who should I call first? I think you will find if you use those 2 processes, again, 1 passive and 1 active, you will be amazed at how much referred business you get.
Adam and Alan nailed it. So I would echo what they say, and I'll cite a couple of examples to underscore the points that they made. First of all, simply asking is the most important thing. And taking a systemized approach, as Alan described, is very, very important. One other element that we bring to the mix is understanding that in the period very soon after you sign a new client, in the honeymoon period, that's a terrific time to tell them that, A, we are very grateful for your business, we appreciate everything you do, and if you are happy with your experience, we would ask that you share it, and using some of the tactics that Alan described, being clear on who you're looking to do business with, and so forth. So as you begin a relationship or finish an engagement with somebody, that's a terrific time to ask. And the very nature of the question, creating a wow experience, I think implies a level of effort and certain magic that really isn't necessary. Just doing your job and doing it well, keeping your promises, as Adam talked about, is very, very important. At Market Vault, we write a blog on all things marketing, and one of my favorite blog posts, certainly one of my favorite headlines in one of my blog posts, are things that Albert Pujols and the girl who dumped me have in common. And and it was back when Albert left the Cardinals. And the point of that article was Albert left the Cardinals and Susie dumped me because they didn't feel appreciated. And I joke and sound cynical about it, but don't take your clients for granted. So we talked about content strategy earlier today. If you're spending a lot of time providing value to your prospects, but not providing value to your existing clients, tips, feedback, that sort of thing, you're missing the boat. You are creating a dynamic where they won't feel appreciated. So one specific example, we ask our account reps to pay attention to all of the emails that our clients are sending out and reach back to them with that a boy if they sent a great email and point out what they did that was really good. They may not even realize they did something really smart in design or in content, or a simple constructive piece of feedback. You might next time try this. It takes very little time for our reps to reach out to our clients, but they love it. And those are wow experiences without a lot of wow effort.
Tom, that was great. A great segue into what I'm going to talk about, and that is knowing
Thank you for the feedback.
You're very welcome. But knowing where your best referrals come from. So it's very important as business owners that we establish referral relationships with other professionals and, acquiring referrals that way. But in my experience, in my professional opinion, my best referrals come from satisfied clients. So it's very important that I continue to nurture and strengthen and deepen the relationships with my clients for the simple fact that I did provide that wow experience for them because they've experienced our processes, they've experienced our service, they've experienced the level of empathy provided by our team. And so when they give a referral, all of that emotional experience that they have is built into their referral. So an example goes, I'll give you the Joan and Kate example, where I have a client named Joan, that's not a real name, but she is a real client. And she had an experience where she was being underserved by a competitor and she didn't understand why. She came to us, we addressed her concerns by focusing on her pain points, addressing her issues, making her very comfortable working with us. Fast forward 18 months, she's at a cocktail party with her husband and she's talking with another lady that she knows who is currently in the situation that she was in 18 months ago. So when she's saying, I've been calling my agent, I had a question, I don't understand why they're not calling back. When she led into giving that referral, it went something like this. I know, about a year ago, I was with this guy for 20 years and I had a question and he wouldn't call me, but you know what? You really should call my current agent because not only did she take care of this, this, and this, she also did this, this, and that. those types of referrals, you can't pay someone enough money to give you that kind of validation. And it's true and it's genuine and it's coming from the heart. So when Kate did give me a call, again, real client, not her name, but it was such an easy sale for me to close. I just had to go back to what Adam said, do my job, do what I say I'm gonna do. When I say I'm gonna do it, follow up, take them through the process, make sure they have that wow experience, and then one referral leads to another referral leads to another referral. So I think, in my professional opinion, it is very important to stay in tune with your clients, to continue to cultivate and develop those relationships, because that's where your best referrals will come from.
And don't forget the people who were difficult to deal with in the beginning. I remember a situation in which the VP, Human Resource VP, told the CEO that he shouldn't hire me because my proposal was $20,000 too high. And after the first day on the project, he became my strongest advocate and not only brought me in for future projects, but referred other business to me as well. So don't be afraid to take advantage of those early rocky relationships when you've won them over and use that to your benefit. And if you can't get a referral immediately, then maybe you can get a testimonial, because if they're wild about something you've done, they're excited about something that you've done, and they give you a compliment, there are techniques for converting that into a testimonial that'll be very powerful going forward when you're meeting with new prospects. And finally, I'd like to build a little bit on Adam's comment about people that you tell no to. When you say no, it's not in their best interest. And I've had similar experiences to what Adam has had. And the way it goes is that people that I've said no to, when they introduce me to somebody, say, oh, if you haven't talked to Dale, you really need to, because he'll tell you the God's honest truth. He showed me why I wasn't a good fit for him, but he'll tell you if it's not the right thing for you. I mean, instant credibility. I mean, where else can you get that? And it's from telling somebody no when it's not the right fit for them. Well, with all that in mind, we've hopefully laid the foundation here for some questions, and we really want to address the issues that are important to you, the questions that you have. So at this point, Dawn and I are going to come out in the audience, and we're going to field your questions, and you can address them to any panel member, to the panel in general, or any of us, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. So we have any questions? Over here, Dawn.
Thanks. I have a B2B business. I'd like your thoughts on paying for referrals, or a reward system or something like that.
You want to take that?
Sure, I will take that. So the question was the idea of paying for rewarding referrals. We do that. We have a referral program where if an existing client refers us to another business, we will credit their account a percentage of the gross revenue on the referral. Or, and this is the thing that happens more frequently, we'll apply it as a discount for the new client, making sure to note that it's a result of the relationship we have with the referring business. And so the referring business gets credit and strengthens the relationship with the business they referred in. Broadly, the idea of expressing gratitude and being very explicit in thanking those who refer business is the key principle. And a thank you may be enough. A reward of some sort can help. The con, the primary con, is that some businesses don't feel comfortable with being rewarded, and it can play as kind of a pay-to-play favor game if you're not careful about it. But I think the key thing is that all of the people here at this table, and I assume all of you, are conscious of how important it is to act with integrity, to build trust in the marketplace. And if you have failed to establish that trust, where the business of a rewarded referral might look sneaky or fishy, you're probably missing the boat in a lot of other areas and have work to do. So we look at it as we're working with businesses that have integrity and have strong relationships with those they might refer in, and they know that it's not being done just because we're paying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if I may interject here, one of the times, generally the only time that I ever use paid referrals is when I have a situation with somebody in which they, for one reason or another, have an opportunity to refer business to me with some kind of regularity, but it's difficult for me to give referrals back just because of the, there's difference in the nature of their business and mine. And in those situations, to strengthen a long-term relationship and make it a two-way street, then I pay referrals in those particular areas. But generally, I limit it to those situations in which, it's the only way I can create a two-way street that really benefits everybody. Okay, and we have a question here.
Hey, good morning. The question I have is, there is a company, let's say, who has gone through a marketing campaign, filled their funnel full of business that requires maybe some deliverables, documents, or proposals or whatever back to them, and for the last 5 months has not contacted any of them. What do you do to start contacting those people back? What are some approaches, and what might you expect?
What, have anybody in particular in mind on that one, or? No, any of the panelists that you? Okay.
I think is one of the most important things to realize about selling, particularly selling business to business, is more than anything, it's about timing. I call that sales ready. Qualified but disinterested and sales ready are two different things. Nurture marketing means that if somebody has raised their hand and said, I have an interest in what you're doing, doesn't necessarily mean that they're sales ready. It may mean that they're qualified, but not ready to pull the trigger. What you have to have is a strategy in mind to consistently nurture that prospect who may have raised their hand. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that advertising doesn't work as much as it should have, is someone says, boy, I'm interested, and they raise their hand, but they're not sales ready. In fact, most of the time, when someone responds to you, 73% of the time they're not sales ready. They're kicking tires, they're doing due diligence, whatever they're doing, and fewer than 20% of all companies have a systematic process for staying in touch with prospects that have responded. And so as a result of that, advertising budgets are deemed ineffective, and marketing, and this is the biggest disconnect between sales and marketing. Marketing creates a lead, hands it off to sales. Sales doesn't sell it, but it doesn't have any process to going back to marketing for that ongoing nurturing. So to answer your question directly, I think that every company needs to develop and must develop a systematic process for consistently, systematically, and persistently staying in contact with people who are qualified but are not currently sales ready. For those that have dropped off the end, I have found that the best way to do is to do a reintroduction letter. When I was speaking to you or an email, I was speaking to you a few months ago, one of the things that I blah, 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 I'd also like to and actually get back into the game, but then have a strategy to not let that happen again. Processes, processes, processes.
You have another
I'm
question?
sorry, we had a follow-up question here.
Just in a situation where people were sales ready, would a phone call be better than a letter in that
If they're sales
situation?
ready, you bet. Faster is better.
And we have another question over here.
You mentioned mailing a letter with your business cards. Now, I've marketed to consumers and I'm marketing business to business. I've done that in the past. It requires a lot of time and commitment. I see the benefit in actually having a physical piece of paper there.
Yes.
How do you weigh that against your marketing tools like your Constant Contact and effectively doing the same type of resource.
You didn't talk about that one.
Well, I won't talk about constant contact, but I'll talk about Marketville. But no, it's all right. If you're starting from scratch, certainly in a lead acquisition technique or even in nurturing, the reality is that you have to test. So to a certain extent, there's always a little bit of risk in the initial effort. But I can't tell you right now that sending a direct mail piece with a business card is a bad investment until versus calling John and asking him to do a teleprospecting campaign, for example. The way that we would approach it with our clients is to recommend that you try a few different approaches and that you bite off as small a sample size as is statistically relevant. So it might be, let's call 300 people and let's mail 300 people and see what kind of return on investment we get. And let's turn the volume up on what works and turn the volume down on what doesn't, or reassess. And so now email in particular speaks to what Alan was getting at, this idea of once they've raised their hand in the funnel, being able to engage them with valuable content on an ongoing basis, and use that engagement as a means to provide value, build trust, and identify who are your best prospects, who are the ones who are showing the kind of interest that makes them sales ready, so you then can pick up the phone or whatever the case may be. Has that answered your question? Sort of? Sure.
Well, and I'd like to emphasize that the testing element there, because all too often we come up with these marketing campaigns, regardless of the media that we choose to use or the medium that we choose to use, and we'll blast out 500 or 1,000 or whatever that number is, and have no sense for what's going to work and what isn't. But if we do smaller tests, 10 to 15, 30 maybe, and see what kind of reaction we get, we can fine tune it much more quickly, right, Tom? And then test it again. And when we see that the response rates are going up, then we know we're on the right track and we can build upon that. But other than that, you end up scrapping a campaign that was typically fairly expensive and didn't produce much in the way of results, whether it's online or email or through the snail mail.
One thing I'd add is I find a lot of business owners suffer from what I call "I've tried it before and it doesn't work" syndrome. So direct mail is a great example. A lot of people I will talk to say, well, I've tried direct mail and it doesn't work. And if you look at their direct mail piece, it talks all about their business and themselves. So it's not that direct mail doesn't work, it's just the message that they put out there doesn't work.
By the way, the U.S. Post Office Department is initiating a new neighbor-to-neighbor direct mail campaign. All you have to do is specify zip codes, and they'll print and mail the stuff that you have at a cheap price. It's a brand new thing coming out, and I forget what it's called. The U.S. Post Office Department has it.
Other questions? Well, Dawn, I'd like to ask you a question. I know you talked about a system for, getting referrals from customers and the different touch points that allow you to create opportunities for wow experiences and get additional referrals. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Okay. Well, in my business of property and casualty insurance, there are a few different touch points that actually lend themselves to people either purchasing or receiving expensive items or expensive gifts that need to be protected that they may or may not have thought of. So some of the things we do in our office is we do birthday calls. We call where it's a non-sales call. We call all of our clients to wish them a happy birthday and just to remind them, hey, if you purchase anything or you receive an expensive gift, be sure to give me a call so we can make sure that it's protected. Anniversaries are another time that we reach out and do non-sales calls to our clients. It strengthens the relationship, lets them know that, hey, we're thinking about you even when you don't think we're thinking about you. We also do care and concern calls. So if we know a storm is coming and we have a lot of clients in a concentrated area, we know they're in the path of a storm, we'll pick up the phone and say, hey, we've got some inclement weather in your area. We just want to call you and give you these 3 tips to keep in mind if you suffer storm damage or if you, to prevent some damage. Here are some things that you can do. And, don't forget to give us a call. We're here for you. We're on your side. Those are non-sales touch points that keep us top of mind, keep us ahead of our competitors, because I can guarantee you not a lot of insurance agents are making those types of phone calls. And it strengthens our relationship. So it's not always just, hey, let me sell you some insurance or let me talk to you about your insurance, but it's, let me remind you what type of agency team that you have on your side.
Very good. Chris, you had?
Yeah, hi, my name's Chris. I was thinking of this and was talking to Dale here for a second. The most successful thing I've ever done, I've told this the E for E people, and I ran this campaign again. And I'll give it, if you drop your card off me, I'll send you how to do it. But one of the things that happens in referrals that I think a lot about is, and I'll use Tom as an example, I don't remember all of a sudden I need email marketing until I need email marketing, right? So one of the things that I do very well is that our team, we send out a letter, and that letter in it says, literally cut and paste this out and send it, right? Because here's what happens. I say, hey, Dale, I'll refer you to somebody. And I go, well, I think Dale wants me to tell it like this. But if Dale would make it really easy for me to do that, then it's very well. So I've done that again. And, we've generated over 100,000 in sales on it. So I know it works. But if you want to stop back by, I'll email you the exact template. I know I sent it to Tom before as well, and it works very well. But you have to think about that. The other analogy I heard one time, just real quick, this is kind of funny, but kind of real. You don't think referrals don't work. If you're a woman, you probably got your OBGYN from a referral. So if I was an OBGYN, that's what I would be working on. But if you think about that, every woman, I need a new one or whatever, right? You say, well, who do you use? And she goes, I've seen it in action with my wife. So, I'm just using an example. It's funny, but it's real. That's the one that always goes in my mind because that's word of mouth. So if you need any one help with that, let me know. Thanks.
Dale?
And I'd like to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
A follow-on comment to what I was saying about sending out the letter with the business cards in it. Here's the situation with direct mail. American people, American business people in particular, sort their mail over the trash can. And what they throw away is anything that looks like junk mail. It has bulk mail indicia on the outside, it has teaser copy on the outside, it's a form letter inside. If you're going to send out referral letters, for goodness sakes, do not use a form letter and do not sign it yourself so that it looks personal. Because the last thing you want this referral source to feel is that it's anything other than personal. Yes, I was going to mention that as well. Don't.
Handwritten address.
Yeah.
Yep. And Dale, I was going to build on what Chris said. Actually, had Chris not stood up, I was going to ask him to stand up because I've heard him talk about that, and it's a really important point. And building on the point, you can do the same thing with testimonials. Dale made a great point about testimonials, maybe that in between step before a referral. All of us in any business need to be very conscious of the objections that we may face in the sales process. And testimonials are a terrific place, a terrific way to address objections. And the example that Dale raised is great. You've had a sales experience, you've talked to a person who put you through the ringer, objecting about this and that and raising this concern about this and that, and is now your strongest advocate inside a client business. Ask that person for a testimonial. And when that person comes back and says, oh, I love doing business with Dale, his customer service is great, and he's a nice guy, and the coffee they serve at their office is delicious, come back and say, Dale could come back and say, thank you for that great testimonial, but would it be okay if instead we talk about the fact that you were really concerned about price? In fact, could we say this? Don't be afraid to compose the referral note, per Chris's point, or even the testimonial and say, could I put your name under this statement? I was really concerned about the price. I couldn't imagine how the investment in this was going to work, but after working with Dale for 6 months, I can't be happier and it's worth every penny. Could I say that? And don't be afraid to be proactive. If they're on your side, they will say yes.
They would, and also what I discovered is that if I do the work for them, I'm more likely to get the testimonial than if I ask them to give me a testimonial
That's right.
and try to wait it out. Because I will, what I'll do typically is when they pay me a compliment, I'll say, would you mind if I captured that and sent it back to you in an email? And if the wording is accurate, if it represents what you were really trying to say, would it be all right if I use that as a testimonial over your signature, your name, and I'll acknowledge your company, and so on. And they always say, oh yeah, no problem. And I will capture it immediately so that I'm as close to that as possible, to what they actually said, and then send it off to them. And normally I just get an email back saying, yeah, that's fine, go ahead with it. Now I have it, and I've got it typically within hours after I was given that compliment. Get here and then.
I have one more on that, and this is a study my company did, and this might help again. It does pile on with Tom, and I hope you get a lot of value out of today from everybody. But I changed the word testimonials to client success stories. Because people want to hear about success. I mean, I'm just going to flat out tell you, right? If I see a testimonial, what's the chances that it's bad? Pretty low. I'd say less than 1%, right? So, of 1/2. So, if success is why I would hire Tom in Marketable, right? Or Dale here in his profit. Those are the types of things they want to see. They want to see success. So, I challenge you when you put testimonials there to change it. You might find some, because people come to your website, what do? They say, is he an expert? Does he have success? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I want to give Dale a call. So, just that helps.
Well, one tip about using testimonials on your website is most businesses will have a testimonials page or put testimonials down the right-hand side of the screen, and that's great. You can use them more effectively if you use the testimonials to answer objections within the copy of your site. So if you are talking about price, and a common objection that someone may see the pricing on your website and think, oh, well, that sounds like a lot. Right at that point in your copy, have a little testimonial that says, hey, I thought this was too expensive, but it's paid for itself many times over. So you can use a testimonial strategically to answer objections like that.
The sales success story, which is important, that was just brought up, if they put it in writing, the beauty part about that is that you can print it and put a copy, and when you take it on a sales call, the unspoken question, whether the prospect verbalizes it or not, is, especially in St. Louis, who else is doing this? And if you can slide a binder across to them and say, flip through that, surely you know somebody that's in there. And if you're in a vertical market, as I am, you will find that they are very, very powerful sales tools.
I'm going to have to rethink what I call this now because Chris said success stories, but I call it testimonial marketing. When you really respect someone and you write a testimonial, your name gets seen. Your name gets Googled. I mean, people want to, well, who is this company that is referring them? If in St. Louis, yes, we pretty much are very connected, but if we don't, we want to know more about them. So not just from the side that wants the testimonial, but from your side, for people you respect that you do business with, it is also in your best interest to help promote them because you get promoted.
Other questions or comments? Here in the back.
I'll make it real quick. In addition to just a testimonial where you've got some copy of something somebody supposedly said about you, which half of them might be made up, who knows? Video testimonials. If
Yes.
you can talk a client of yours into doing it, you know, this handsome fella right here has done it for me in the past. I talked him into coming in my office. We did a little video. He talked about the work we had done with him and the success we had had. We put it up on our website. We use it all the time to show people.
I absolutely want to echo that. And I have fallen off of a habit that I used to have, which was at events like this, at networking events, whatever the case, if I would run into a client who would say something nice about the business, I, as a matter of reflex, would say, do you mind if we head over to that quiet corner of the room? And I would pull out my phone and say, can you repeat that in 30 seconds? And shoot the video. And now for the videographers in the room, there is great benefit in doing it professionally, but getting these things done and done quickly, Josh is right on.
Okay, we've got time for one or two more questions before we wrap it up.
Excuse me, this is my first time here. I am a SCORE volunteer, have been for 25 years. SCORE is normally thought of as a group who works with startup businesses, but we also work with people who are in business trying to go to the next level. I'm here to take your name and get back to you to help your business. We normally assign 2 or 3 or 4 other counselors to work with this business. We go in, interview the key employees, go through some paperwork, go back and do some of our own research, give the business a report with considerations and suggestions. We don't tell you what to do because it's not our place to tell you what to do. It's our place to suggest to you that there are things you may not have seen totally and you can improve yourself. If you take our ideas, we see that twinkle in your eye, we sleep well at night. I'm also here to find out if there's anyone here who would like to be a volunteer. If you're a volunteer and you would like to see that twinkle in an eye, please see me. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, and we at E4E here recognize that there's a need throughout the business community for a lot of different resources, and SCORE is certainly one of them. So we look forward to our affiliations and association with SCORE as well as other organizations here in the St. Louis area.
Yeah, I'm not sure which panel member I need to address this to, but I guess my question is there a difference or a uniqueness in the referral process with regard to the size of the client? For example, some of us have individual clients, some of us have small business, or some of us have all of the above and want to gain referrals from larger clients as well. So does size matter?
Who would like to answer that one? Personally, I don't think that size matters all that much. I think that people who are happy with our performance, who are enjoy working with us, regardless of the size of the company, because after all, at the end of the day, we're always doing business with people, right? We're doing business with individuals, even though they're representatives of companies in different industries and different size organizations and different markets. At the end of the day, we're people doing business with other people. And if we keep that in mind, then the referrals that we're asking for, the referrals we hope to get and are working to get with the WOW experiences we're creating are going to be basically the same. The way, in my mind, the way we would approach them would be the same regardless.
Dale, I would say that it matters only to the extent that you always need to be conscious of what is the next step in the sales process after pleased to meet you. And so to Chris's point, if you take his tactic of drafting the request, I think you should meet Dale and here's why, or check out Dale. If Dale is a sandwich shop, the call to action is going to be, he's located at the corner of this and that, and go and check it out, or here's a coupon, and I highly recommend it. If it is a B2B business, much bigger business, much longer sales cycle, the call to action that you have to craft in the referral is something much different. Can I give you his phone number, or can I give him your phone number? Something like that.
Good point, Tom. Thank you.
Yep.
We'll take one last question.
Yes, Chuck Lee with Teleformance. When you get a client that is brand new and has done nothing social media wise, how do you get them started?
I refer them to some of the outstanding social media consultants that I know, including Karen Fox and others. Josh, yeah. And I mean, that's only half flip, right? I'm serious. There's an interesting cycle there that the more effective you are in referring people into things that will be successful for them, most likely it comes around in the relationship that you have with them directly. So,
I think as I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead.
I think as entrepreneurs, one of the things that we tend to do is think that we are the answer to every business problem. And so what we do is we tend to, with revenue in sight, get out of our primary core competencies and do things that we're not necessarily the best at. That creates not a wow customer experience, but a customer experience.
How do you spell that?
Completely limits your referral sources, and by far you're better off to refer people to who people are really good at what they do, rather than try doing something that you're not that good at. Stay focused on what you're good at, and a lot of these problems for getting referrals goes away.
Well, with that, we're going to have to wrap up this session, and want to thank you for your participation, your questions, and let's go out and get referrals to reward ourselves for the fabulous work we do and the great value we provide to the business community and to our consumers.
A round of applause for all of the facilitators. Bill Purnett is going to be up next to talk about more value that's